Unahaganisiga. Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful morning. I'm the host of Healing the Survivors, and today I have Corinn with me to discuss how to feel empowered in our bodies. So Corinn is a very successful businesswoman and entrepreneur. She is a mother of two. It is a part of the Inside Out Institute as a transformational coach. And she is also launching her podcast next week on She's on Fire. So thank you, Corinn, for being on and joining me. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey and how you transformed yourself?
Absolutely, I would love to. So thank you so much for having me on. It's really a pleasure. Anytime I can provide value to other people, I make it a point to do so. So my journey really began, I would say many years ago, but I think that 2 years ago was where I really got started with my journey as an entrepreneur. And I believe a lot of people who have started embarking on the journey of entrepreneurship understand that you have to do a lot of self-development to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, um, yeah, you can't stay the same and expect more pay and more time freedom as the same person. You have to grow as a person and change as a person in order to
Mm-hmm.
reflect the kind of lifestyle that you want to live. And so I learned that at first when I joined my first network marketing company. And I was in a company a lot of people may know called Rodan and Fields for some time. And it was my first start. I'm not in that company anymore, but it did teach me a lot about business ownership and
Mm-hmm.
about self-development. And I learned about community um, and I'm a medical esthetician. So for me, beauty has always been a big part of my life. And so a couple of years ago, embarking on entrepreneurship, you have a lot of pressure, right? I feel like a lot of people feel like they have
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of pressure on them to look
Yeah.
good, to perform well, to sound good in front of other people, and overall to just have it all together, you know?
Yeah.
And that really was not the case for me whatsoever. I was totally did not have it all together at all. But
Yeah.
I think that one of the phrases that I think really helped me was feel the fear and do it anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt the fear, and I decided that I was going to take the leap and really and really invest in changing myself as a person. And so back a couple of years ago, at that time, before I had started my medical spa, just being in network marketing and doing all that stuff, I felt myself, really unhealthy. I was really overweight. I was depressed. And not everybody that's overweight is depressed, but me personally, I felt like the two were very connected for me. And I felt that I was carrying around a lot of baggage from other people's lives in my family
Yeah.
because I've always been that person that really, wants to help my family out and wants to care for them and really holds that responsibility on my shoulders. And my parents were both addicts. And so from a young age, I've had to experience a lot of trials and trauma with my
Mm-hmm.
parents being addicted to different drugs and alcohol. And so personally myself, instead of turning to drugs and alcohol, because I knew I was so afraid of that I decided
Yeah.
to turn to food. So my outlet was for my emotions was food. And I realized that pretty quickly, especially when you're starting your entrepreneurship journey and you feel like everybody's watching
Yeah.
you. And you're like, and so but really more than that, I was really just I felt like something was just wrong. I felt like unhealthy. I didn't feel like I was my true self. And so I started that journey of weight loss and self-discovery and
Mm-hmm.
self-love. And those were the three things that I feel like really transformed me as a person. And it really started with me just choosing to love my because I was telling myself a lot of trash. I was talking myself into lots of lies that weren't true, that nobody else was even saying to me. I was like making in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And back then that was before I had a social media following before I even had people hating on my comments, that was back when I was just, had a basic 1,000 followers, and, I was just starting out. So, but I felt like the trash that I was talking to myself in my head, like, you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough. It was related to my self-confidence. And for some people, their self-confidence can come from other things. But for myself, I felt like my self-confidence really came from feeling healthy and caring for my body, because I felt like really it came from caring for my body, because it doesn't mean you have to be skinny to care for your body, because I'm not skinny, but I'm no longer in a danger zone for my health, for my family. And so, that's really that was my end goal, was to be at the point where I didn't like I was going to have a heart attack, because I was so unhealthy and so just didn't care that I was at the point where they told me I was obese and I was putting pressure on my heart, and that's why I was having heart problems. And so that was my wake up call for me, because, sometimes your drive to be beautiful doesn't really get you to wake up in the morning and eat avocado toast. It's got to come from something else. It's got to come from like a big why from within. So my big why came from when they told me that, I had pressure on my heart, because I was, for my height, 5'6", 205 pounds, and my body stature, I was overweight. I was in the category of obese. And so, that was really hard for me to hear, but it woke me up to the fact that if I was going to be an entrepreneur and live this life of legacy that I could pass down to my children, that they could be proud of, that could really make a difference in the world, that I needed to set a good example. Because when people start to follow you and pay attention to you and watch what you're doing, you don't want to represent something that leads people into a path of destruction. And so for me personally, the way that I live my life, I hold it to a higher standard, just because I know that, people are watching, and what we do as leaders really does influence the way that other people live their lives. So how could I go on living my life, eating McDonald's cheeseburgers and drinking Coca-Cola and trying to lead people into a happy, healthy life? And so I started researching about food and nutrition, and that was really the beginning for me for my journey into total transformation. Check, let me know if you can still hear me, because I just had a call, it came through. Still good?
Yep, we're good.
It's kind of lagging.
Yeah. It's okay.
You can still hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I can hear.
So, okay. So, yeah. So okay, cool. Yeah. It's like a little lag, but it's cool. So yeah, my journey did really start with food. And I think that's when I first discovered that I had a problem. And the source of it really, I discovered through lots of therapy over the past few years, was self-hatred. And, self-hatred, I think a lot of us actually deal with that and don't even know it. And it can manifest itself in different ways. It can manifest itself as rage, or it could be self-abuse or self-hatred. And all of those things can lead you down a track. Drug addiction, sex addiction, alcohol addiction, food addiction, pornography addiction. And those all stem from self-hatred. And so my self-hatred was directly attached to my emotional connection with food. So I knew for me that there had to be a way to feel free, and to feel like I was living my life again, and like I wasn't a prisoner in my own body, because that's how I felt. And so, so fast forward, I don't want to, go too far, because I know we're on a short time limit here, but that would be where my journey really started. And I did accomplish approximately 80 pounds of weight loss in 3 months.
That's
so
amazing.
Now here I am 2 years later, and God is so good. I've had a lot of success. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable with us. So my question is, and for everyone who's listening, how do you even recognize you're going down that path of, not seeing your self-worth or seeing like you're on path of destruction? How do you even recognize that in the first place? Is it listening to the signs that people are telling you, or is it really reflecting on yourself? How do we even acknowledge that that's what we're doing?
That's a phenomenal question. And I believe that that's a question worth pondering for each person that's watching
Mm-hmm.
this, because I think the definition may be different for everybody. I think for me, the wake up call, because a lot of times I think people have heard the term like rock bottom
Mm-hmm.
or wake up call. And I think that becomes like a pivotal moment for people, where they decide they have to make a change. It no longer becomes, I have this choice to make a change. It becomes, I have to. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think for me, I knew I was slipping away. I was going down a darker path, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like the behaviors that I was doing. I could tell that my family, was noticing a difference in me. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was probably the first initial moment where I started to realize that it wasn't just my weight, it was insecurity, it was overall a lack of not feeling worthy. So that turns into you lashing out on other people around you
Mm-hmm.
and making them feel bad without really intending to. And I think that was kind of a big moment for me too, somewhere in that time period where my family started being a little bit distant from me,
Mm-hmm.
because they could recognize that I was going through a really deep process. And so that was hard for me because I love my family so much, and I felt like I was no longer serving them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it more about them than it about me. Because if I died, then my family, they didn't have anybody to help them or rely on anymore. And I felt like that was against my morals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that you brought up a good point there is like, when we hit that rock bottom, right? How do we even prevent ourselves from even hitting that point, right? So as a body and emotion code practitioner, I work with people like on their subconscious level, and we're able to pull away those layers that even like first you develop that belief of I don't deserve, love or connection,
How's your
or I'm
internet connection,
unworthy.
honey? I think we're cutting.
Oh,
I think you're cutting out just a wee bit. I didn't hear a lot of what you just said.
okay. It says it's good.
Can't hear you at all actually now.
Okay. All right. I don't know what happened.
That's okay. Technology is not always reliable. No worries.
So anyway, what I was saying is, as a body and emotion practitioner, we're constantly stripping away those blocks and those belief systems that are even putting us in the place of that self-worth and like those negative blocks surrounding it. So I'm constantly like pulling things out of people, saying, okay, now how you feel about yourself. And they're like, okay, I feel a little better. So I think that's recognizing before we even get to that breaking point that we do have these emotions that are even causing us to feel this way about ourselves. So with that being said, I want to talk about the conscious perspective of that. How do we change our mindset about ourselves and our image? So do you have any like tips for anyone on how to do that?
So you broke up a little bit there.
Okay. So what can we do to change our mindset of our image?
Change the perception of our self-image.
Mm-hmm.
So some tactical steps that I would use, which I think it might be different for everybody, but personally, what I did was I have a journal app that I use that I really love.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Gratitude app. And I use that for journaling at first, but it actually has a section in there called affirmations. And I would have to force myself to look in the mirror and give myself affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
I would look in the mirror and I'd look myself dead in the eye and I would tell myself that I was beautiful, that I was loved, that I was whole, that I was healthy, that I was happy, that I was filled with joy, and capable of anything. And with God's help, I'm capable of anything. And I would just tell myself that. And a lot of times I would cry.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably, I mean, probably one out of every 10 times I wouldn't cry. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a challenging time for me, but I also made new habits. And I think that new habits really help too. Because at that current time, I would wake up, at 10 o'clock in the morning and I would not meditate, no yoga, no deep breathing. And I would start working because I've always been really hard worker, but I
Mm-hmm.
never really took the time to care for my body before I
Mm-hmm.
got started with my day. So those practices now are part of my daily life, meditation and yoga and deep breathing, which I found to be one of the best things that I could have ever done
Mm-hmm.
was to learn the art of deep breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And those are some tactical things I think anybody can use, not just about self-image or body image, but in general, just from any sort of problem that you may be having in your life. I think those are some of the most powerful tools that you can use, even with addiction,
Mm-hmm.
because food addiction and drug addiction, I feel like people need to understand are very similar. And
Yeah.
so you can help free yourself from those with those techniques.
Yeah. Especially like as I'm transforming myself, because I'm a part of the Inside Out Institute program, waking up and meditating and setting my intention for the day has really like shifted myself. Like, you have like this radiant energy going through your body and it's helping you, okay, let's see, how am I going to take on the day, especially during this chaos in the world. So I think that's really important, especially when you are in the midst of your healing journey. You have to take a closer look within yourself on an energy perspective first, because that's what you're projecting to the world. So I think that's really important. I'm so glad like you're able to do the meditation and yoga and you're moving yourself. And I think people are seeing that and noticing, which is amazing because, that's what we want to be doing, is helping inspire others. So with the mindset piece, and I really want to get deep into that, right? Because we have to form new belief systems about ourselves. So what do you believe is it different for each person, or what is the number one thing you say about or say to yourself as like a affirmation that really helps shift you?
Good question. So there is a couple great people out there in the world that I love to use their quotes, and one of them is Jim Rohn's. Jim Rohn, he has really phenomenal educational material on personal development. He's one of my favorite speakers. He's one of my favorite people, Jim Rohn, and but he has some great quotes. But another one is, if you can change your mind, you can change your life. And I think that came from him, but a lot of people say that. A lot of people I look up to and mentors. So if you can change your mind, you can change your life. And I know it kind of sounds simple, but I thought to myself at that time that I had no control over anything in my life. And that could be a really dark place to be,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're somebody who just lost their job because of the coronavirus, or you're sick with the coronavirus, or maybe you're a person of color and you're going through a lot of oppression right now, or you feel like you have a lot of that on your shoulders right now. You have control over your mind and the way that you think. That's actually truly the only thing that we can consciously control, is the thoughts that we have inside of our head. And so I would tell myself, I would put no boundaries on what I could achieve. So I think a lot of people set limitations for themselves. And I think if you expand your thinking, and if you expand the goals that you have for yourself, I think you can actually achieve and accomplish more, because I think people don't have enough belief in themselves. So I feel like belief is super important, and just changing your mindset overall really does come from reading. So I read a lot of books. I've read approximately 92 books in the last 2 years. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
More books than I ever read in my life before. But and I mean, some people tell me I'm cheating because I used Audible for probably 75% of those books. But hey, all I can say is I got through them, and some of them I listened to 3, 4, 5 times. So you know, Grant Cardone, he's an excellent author. Brene Brown, she wrote a book, Dare to Lead. Dr. Bradley Nelson is a phenomenal author, wrote The Emotion Code. That's one of my favorite books. When I found the Emotion Code, I think it opened up my world, because I had heard of energy healing before, but I'd never looked into it, because I'm a really faithful Christian. And it was amazing because Emmanuel actually put out that podcast about if you're a Christian and you're looking into energy or emotion code healing. And so I thought that was amazing, because a lot of people in my network, in my circle, would be hesitant to try something new, such as the emotion or the body code, because of our faith and our strong spirituality here in Jacksonville, Florida. It's one of the biggest Bible Belt cities in the entire country. And so for me, I've had a little bit more challenge with that. So, but once Emmanuel started talking about and educating people on how we literally seek the Lord's help, we ask for our higher powers' assistance when we do the emotional healing. And that there was no way we could do it without him, you know? So I think that opened up my friends' eyes and my circle's eyes to what's possible, instead of thinking that it's like voodoo or witchcraft or anything like that. They were more open-minded to hearing about it. And so that helps, you know, always build belief when you have your moms and your dad who, you know, are faithful Christians and now can look at what you're doing, what you're involved in, and give you a stamp of approval. So that really helped me out a lot too. But, you know, the emotion code is one of the most profound methods of healing I've ever laid my eyes on. And I'm a big believer in chiropractic care and in acupuncture. And, you know, I have a medical spa, so we have all kinds of holistic wellness. We have the endospheres, which is lymphatic drainage. And, you know, so we do, so we do a lot of stuff in that realm. So a lot of my clients talk to me about the different sorts of holistic healing and the different sorts of holistic methods that they use. And so over the past 5 years, 6 years, I've been exposed to a lot. So for when I stumbled upon the emotion code, and how innately profound it was and the science behind it. And so if you could still hear me, because every time I get a phone call, my phone cuts out. I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay.
Let me know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. Oh, she's gone. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. I hope you got something out of this, and really are going to be able to focus on your self-worth and take the time to reflect on yourself. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.